The last time my daughter called me, I was still walking without help. Still cooking my own meals, paying my own bills, pretending that arthritis wasn't clawing its way up my spine like a bitter little thief. "You'll be fine, Mom," she'd said. "Just stay on top of your meds. I've got a new project kicking off in LA, but I'll visit soon." That was 14 months ago. Since then, I've had a minor stroke, learned how to manage a walker, fallen twice in the shower, and not once, did Julia call back. She didn't ghost me. That's too kind a word. She filed me away like an outdated resume. Too sharp to be pitted, too inconvenient to be cared for. And I understood, in a way. She'd always been sharp-edged, ambitious, allergic to anything that didn't validate her version of success, including love, especially when it came from Ava. If betrayal comes not in screams, but in quiet abandonment, like, share and subscribe, because this story isn't about guilt. It's about choosing legacy over blood. Ava was Julia's first girlfriend, maybe the only one that ever truly softened her. But Julia ended that relationship with venom and buried it behind boardroom bravado. Said Ava was a distraction. Weak. I always knew that was projection. When I had my stroke, it wasn't Julia who showed up. It was Ava. She drove 6 hours, made soup, cleaned the gutters, sat by my bed, and read aloud when my voice was gone. She didn't ask what she was owed. And that's when I knew, when I'm gone, everything, the house, the trust, the investments Julia never knew about, will go to the one person who showed up. I didn't call a lawyer. I called my friend Henry, the retired estate planner who once helped Julia draft a college trust fund. He asked no questions when I said, "I want to update everything, but quietly." I told him the new beneficiary name, Ava. He paused for a beat, then said, "Good." We met in my kitchen. The same one where Julia once told me, face stiff with pride, that love made her weak. That Ava was cloying and soft. But soft doesn't mean weak. Soft is showing up when no one's watching. Henry slid the new documents across the table. "You don't want to leave her anything?" I didn't blink. She left herself. Some people think inheritance is obligation. I see it as clarity. And clarity came in the form of a girl my daughter tried to bury with distance and shame. I signed the new will. Initialed every page. Dated it with deliberate precision. The trust now named Ava as full beneficiary. The house. The insurance policy. The stocks Julia assumed would default to her. All of it. I added one clause at the end. To Julia Marie Thompson, I leave the lesson of presence. May she find more value in showing up than she ever found in success. Henry smiled without humor. That's going to sting. That's the point. Julia posted on Instagram the next day. A photo of a dinner party, wine glass in hand, smiling like she hadn't once considered calling. She never mentioned my health online. Image is everything. Ava brought over groceries later that week. Picked wildflowers on the way. Didn't ask for money. Didn't need thanks. She just sat with me. She came back when she heard I'd fallen again. Not from me, of course. Julia doesn't call. But someone must have mentioned it at some networking brunch, or maybe she caught wine through her old high school friend who still lives 2 blocks over. She showed up unannounced, dressed like a guest, not a daughter. Designer coat, fresh blowout, and that polished smile she reserves for clients and conquests. I was sitting by the window, a blanket around my legs, watching Ava prune the rose bushes I hadn't touched in months. "Hi, Mom," she said, voice flat, like reading from a card. "Julia," I nodded. "Didn't expect you." She looked at Ava, then back at me. "Didn't know you were keeping her around." "She didn't leave," I said. Julia's jaw tensed. We talked for 10 minutes. She didn't ask how I'd been. Just listed reasons why she'd been too slammed to check in. Her new promotion. A potential investment opportunity in Dubai. You wouldn't believe the pressure. I believed it just fine. Pressure is what you feel when the things you built start slipping. And something about Ava still being here, clean, calm, present, made Julia nervous. She asked if I'd considered updating the estate plan. I sipped my tea. I already did. She blinked.
Oh,
Well, I assume you left it all in the trust. I nodded. I left everything where it belongs.
she didn't get it then.
But she will. She arrived late, as always, with the energy of someone expecting applause for simply being present. She didn't ask how I died. To my daughter, Julia Marie Thompson, I leave my memories. You were once the light in my life. You had my hands, my stubbornness, my ambition. But you did not have my heart, not after you abandoned mine when it began to fail. For that, I give you one lesson. Legacy is not inherited. It is earned. Julia shifted in her chair. The color drained from her face. To Ava Lennox, I leave everything. The house, the land, the full inheritance, including trusts and investments. Not because you are perfect, but because you showed up. When I was frightened, when I was sick, when I was alone. Julia stood. You're joking. The lawyer didn't flinch. It's legally binding. She was Julia's voice cracked, caught between rage and disbelief. She was nothing. No, the lawyer said. You made her feel like nothing. She didn't believe you. Ava didn't speak. She just lowered her head, tears in her eyes, not from greed, but grief. Julia thought legacy came in bloodlines and balance sheets. She never understood that it's built in phone calls, in holding hands, in staying when it's hardest. The house was quiet the day Ava returned, not as a visitor, not as a guest, but as the new owner. She walked the halls slowly, fingers tracing the edges of old family photos Julia never took the time to replace. The garden was still hers, every flower she had trimmed, watered, nursed back to bloom. She wasn't just inheriting property. She was reclaiming a space that grief had tried to hollow and love had quietly preserved. Julia never came back. She sent one email to the lawyer, attempting to contest. It was denied. Every signature had been witnessed, every clause airtight. She hadn't even known about the second account, the one I'd built from stock dividends and quiet investments, because she never asked how I lived. Only what I'd leave behind. I left everything. To someone who sat by my bed and read poetry when I couldn't sleep. To the woman who placed a shawl over my shoulders before I ever asked. To the one Julia treated like a phase, like a stain on her future, when in truth, she was the only constant in my final chapter. Ava never renovated the house. She kept the walls the same. She added only one new photo, me and her, on the porch, her arm wrapped around my shoulder. Taken 3 days before I passed. It now sits framed on the mantel where Julia once said, I'll redecorate this place someday when it's mine. It never was. Because in the end, blood forgets. But love, real, inconvenient, unwavering love, remembers. Thank you for joining this journey. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories where silence has memory and inheritance finds the one who stayed.